Professor Anghie, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for the Eminent Scholars Archive. We do like to do a contemporary reflection on the faculty and the Goodhart, the Goodhart chairs. We do interviews with those who hold the Goodhart chair to reflect the current activity of the faculty and the current scholarship. So thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us. I just thought by way of beginning we could get a bit of a sense of your career before coming to Cambridge. And I have read your recent article where you Rethinking International Law, a Twale retrospective. So I was wondering if you could tell us about your activities with that organization, or how you came to it, or were you one of the founders of the of Twale too, as it were?
Historical origins are always complicated, isn't it?
Right. Yes, yes.
And as a historian yourself, I think you'd appreciate this. So we don't even call ourselves an organization.
Right.
We call ourselves a network of scholars. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the interesting things about third world approaches to international law, or Twale, that people seem to have an idea of Twale as an organization which has a leadership and which has members and which has units. So it sees us as some kind of a think tank or NGO, hierarchy and structure. But we are none of those things. It is just a group of scholars who are interested in these issues of the third world and international law, and the way in which the third world has been largely excluded from the making of international law. Historically, that has been the case.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I mean, walking up the steps to come to this office, you'd have seen many eminent Cambridge scholars, such as John Westlake and Lassa Oppenheim, who were instrumental in making sure that non-European people were excluded from international law. They wrote very powerfully about how these people were uncivilized. And because they were uncivilized, they were not properly sovereign. And of course, international law is all about sovereigns. So if you're not sovereign, you can't participate in the making of international law. You're simply an object in the system rather than a subject which can participate in the making of international law. So those are the issues that we were interested in, on the relationship between imperialism and international law, and how that has been understood, and the ongoing effects of imperialism. Because one of the claims that we would make is that the structures of disempowerment that emerge from imperialism continue to be a very prominent feature of contemporary international law. So there's a group of us at Harvard who were interested in this issue. And we drew upon the work of a very distinguished group of scholars. And this is something that I try to highlight in my article as well. There's always been efforts by non-European scholars to engage with international law in this very difficult situation where international law has been traditionally used to conquer non-European people or to suppress them, even when they are independent. So the article tries to give some sense of what Twale scholars have been working on and what inspires them, and also reflect on the fact that to the extent we can say there was an origin, it was a conference organized in 1997 by basically graduate students at Harvard. James Gathy has written a wonderful article. He was one of those scholars. He played a very prominent role in this. And Vasuki Nesaya and Balakrishnan Rajagopal and a number of other scholars. And inspired also by B.S. Chimney, who happened to be, he's a very distinguished Indian scholar who was at Harvard at the time. So it was a group of these people who organized this conference in 1997. And I suppose it's something of a cliche in international law, isn't it? That everything is supposed to begin with a conference.
Yes.
The Peace of Westphalia, or you could say the League of Nations, Versailles. But anyway, 1997. So I wrote that article, something like 25 years later.
Right.
And I think when that conference was held, we never dreamt that this would become such a presence in the world of international law. And it was an attempt to assess that. And I should say it was just a personal attempt because my other colleagues and those who were involved in organizing that conference have written about this extensively, and I want to keep pointing this out so that people would get a sense of the range of ways in which this subject has been treated.
Yes, yes. And then there were responses written to your introduction, weren't there? So it's a very lively and active group of scholars.
Yes, I think so. It's one of the wonderful things I feel about TWAIL, that there are new generations of scholars who are contesting what we said. I feel I am a TWAIL scholar of a particular generation, and the wonderful thing is that we have many other scholars from all over the world who are challenging what my generation was arguing, and they're taking up these issues in their own way and adding new ones to them. And so that I think is something that we never dreamt of, really, when we held that first conference in 1997.